In 2024, the United Arab Emirates ranked number 1 in the entire world for abandoned ships. Not number 10, not runner-up, number 1 by a wide margin. 42 vessels, 13% of the global total left without owners, without crew pay, without a future, quietly rotting in UAE waters while the skyline behind them continued to gleam. On land, the pattern was the same. Between 2,000 and 3,000 luxury cars are abandoned in Dubai every single year. Ferraris, Bugattis, Lamborghinis. Left in airport parking lots with the keys still in the ignition, doors sometimes hanging open, as if their owners had simply decided mid-journey that the car was no longer worth the trouble of taking. In the first 6 months of 2025 alone, 1,387 vehicles were impounded. 6,000 warnings were issued to owners who had simply stopped responding. At the same time, rents in some Dubai neighborhoods had surged more than 80% between 2020 and 2023. The UAE leapt from the 90th to the 31st most expensive destination for expatriates in the world in a single decade. UBS placed Dubai in its elevated real estate bubble risk category in 2025 for the second consecutive year. Fitch Ratings warned of a possible 15% correction in residential property prices, with 210,000 new units flooding the market across 2025 and 2026, double the volume of the previous 3 years combined. And in early 2026, a single night of geopolitical shock caused buyer inquiries to collapse by 45%. Hold all of those numbers in your head at once, because what you are looking at is not a simple story of boom or bust. It is something far stranger and far more revealing than either. There is a marina, a long one. If you stand at its edge early in the morning, before the city noise climbs to its full pitch, you will see something the promotional videos don't linger on. The super yachts are there. Yes, enormous, white, blinding in the morning sun. But look closer. The teak on one of them has begun to split. A mooring line on another has gone green with algae, pulling taut against nothing, going nowhere. The air conditioning units hum from inside holes that have not left port in months. There are no voices. No engines warming up. No smell of diesel and salt in anticipation. Just heat. Just silence. Just the shimmer of the city reflected in the water below. Upside down, wavering, almost unrecognizable. Is this what the end of a dream looks like? Or is this just the dream catching its breath before it runs again? The answer depends entirely on which version of Dubai you are willing to see. There was a moment not so long ago when Dubai was not just a city. It was an argument that human ambition, if given enough capital and enough desert, could manufacture paradise from nothing. And for a while, the numbers agreed with the argument completely. In 2002, the Emirate made a decision that would reshape the Middle East forever. It allowed foreigners to buy property on its soil. What followed was not a real estate market, it was a detonation. Prices surged nearly 59% in a single year between 2007 and 2008. The Dubai Marina, a 3.5-kilometer canal carved entirely by hand into the coastline, became one of the largest man-made marinas on the planet, sheltering over 550 yachts and lining itself with towers that scrape the clouds. At its peak, real estate transactions in the Emirate reached 114 billion dirhams in a single year. The world had never seen anything built so fast, so tall, and so deliberately. The yacht market moved in perfect lockstep with the towers. Dubai established itself as the undisputed capital of maritime luxury in the Middle East, home to over 15 marinas and 3,500 berths. The Dubai International Boat Show grew into a global institution, celebrating its 31st edition in 2025. The MENA region accumulated the world's second highest fleet-to-billionaire ratio, holding 12.6% of the global superyacht fleet. Superyacht registrations in Dubai were growing at 18% year over year, the fastest rate of any destination on Earth. In 2024 alone, the Emirate attracted 6,700 millionaires, the highest net inflow of high net worth individuals of any city in the world that year. This was not an accident, this was a project. Niall McLaughlin, Senior Vice President at Damac Properties, was there for the full arc of the ascent. He watched the cranes multiply, watched the marina fill, watched the boats get longer and the penthouses get higher. And then, in October 2008, he watched all of it fall off a cliff. Those were his words, not a metaphor, not a polished piece of retrospective analysis. A cliff. He said it plainly because he had lived it. The recovery that followed was, by any measure, spectacular. Regulations tightened, the market matured, By 2021, luxury property prices had grown 77% from their pandemic lows. By 2024, Dubai recorded an all-time high of 761 billion dirhams in real estate transactions, a 36.5% increase from the year before. By 2025, annual sales had reached 917 billion dirhams across 270,000 deals, the strongest year in the city's entire history. The boats were back, the champagne was cold, but somewhere beneath the surface, something was shifting. It was not loud. It did not announce itself in press releases or in the closing numbers on the financial markets. It moved the way water moves before a storm, quietly, under everything, rearranging the foundations while the surface still looked perfectly calm. The first people to leave were not the ones anyone noticed. They were the engineers, the nurses, the mid-level managers, the school teachers, the restaurant owners. The people who filled the offices behind the glass towers and kept the city breathing between the yachts and the penthouses. They did not hold press conferences. They did not write op-eds in regional newspapers about being priced out of paradise. They simply packed their containers, handed back their keys, and disappeared into departure terminals that had once only ever moved in one direction. The numbers recorded their exit with cold precision. The UAE had been the 90th most expensive destination for expatriates in the world in 2013. By 2023, it was the 31st. In the 12 months to April 2024, rental values across Dubai surged more than 20%. Apartment rents alone rising nearly 22% in a single year. Some neighborhoods had seen increases of over 80% since 2020. A one-bedroom apartment in the city center was costing over $2,000 a month. A family of 4 was spending the equivalent of nearly $4,000 per month before rent was even factored in. At the same time, and this is the detail that should stop you cold, a survey of 1,000 organizations operating in the Gulf found that almost a third of UAE companies were simultaneously reducing the salaries offered to new recruits. Costs were accelerating in one direction, incomes were moving in the other. The math was simple, and the math was brutal. The city was becoming impossible for the very people who made it function. Out on the water, a maritime lawyer named Cameron Livingston was watching a parallel story unfold. He had spent years studying why ships get abandoned, the financial structures behind it, the legal frameworks that allow it, the human consequences that follow, and what he found in the UAE was not reassuring. The UAE, he explained, is a center not only for seaborne trade, but also for shipping company registration, thanks to its free zones and permissive tax and asset management policies. Those same conditions that made Dubai irresistible to the world's wealthy were also making it a remarkably convenient escape hatch for owners who could no longer or simply no longer wish to honor their financial obligations. Of 312 vessels abandoned globally in 2024, 42 were left rotting in UAE waters. 13% of the world's total concentrated in one small emirate, number 1 on the global list by a margin that left no room for interpretation. The same logic playing out on land with precisely the same result. Assets left behind by people who made the calculation that leaving was cheaper than staying. Bugattis in desert sand. Lamborghinis with keys in the door. Yachts with splitting teak and algae-choked mooring lines. Their AC units still running in empty holes as if waiting for owners who made very clear they were not coming back. The infrastructure that made Dubai's maritime economy function did not simply stand still while all of this was unfolding. It began to crack. Charter rates in the region drop approximately 35% in summer, a season that lasts not weeks but months in the Gulf. 7 dead months is not a business cycle. For operators running tight margins on extraordinarily expensive assets, it is a slow bleed that eventually becomes terminal. Ronan Arthur, head of residential valuation at property consultancy Cavendish Maxwell, described the landscape with measured, almost surgical clarity. In prime master-planned areas downtown, established Emaar communities' prices are holding or rising modestly. Everywhere else, in areas that aren't master-developed and carry a more mixed quality of stock, performance can be far more uneven. The city, Arthur was saying, was splitting in two. A narrow strip of gleaming waterfront where the ultra-wealthy would always find each other and sustain the ecosystem that catered to them. And everywhere else, the vast, sprawling infrastructure of the ordinary Dubai that had made the extraordinary Dubai possible softening quietly, without fanfare, without anyone in an official capacity acknowledging that the softening was happening at all. The human cost of that softening cannot be measured in square feet or dirhams per berth. It is measured in the Arabic teacher who moved back to Egypt after 14 years in Dubai because her rent tripled and her salary did not. In the Filipino crew member sleeping aboard a vessel in Jebel Ali port, waiting for a paycheck from an owner who stopped answering calls in November. In the British marketing director who bought an off-plan apartment in 2023 with a payment plan that now requires a calculation he cannot complete. Dubai built its miracle on the labor, the spending, and the confidence of people it is quietly making it impossible to keep. The wealthy will stay or find each other somewhere else and rebuild the same arrangement under a different flag. It is the people in between, the ones who staffed the clinics and drove the cabs and crewed the charter yachts and taught the children in the international schools whose disappearance no press release will acknowledge, and whose absence will be felt first in ways that nobody in an official capacity wants to name. While Dubai was managing its contradictions, its neighbor was not waiting for an invitation. Saudi Arabia did not announce its maritime ambitions quietly. It announced them with a $500 billion mega project, a royal decree, and an island that opened to the world on October 27, 2024. Sindalah NEOM's first luxury island. Designed by the same architecture firm that shapes Monaco's most prestigious yachting installations, arrived in the Red Sea with 86 marina berths for vessels up to 75 meters, plus 5 dedicated super yacht moorings, capable of accommodating hulls up to 180 meters. It achieved Tier 5 Gold Anchor accreditation immediately upon opening, the kind of certification that yacht captains, owners, and charter brokers around the world recognize and trust, and placed itself, from its very first day of operation, in direct competition with everything Dubai's marinas had spent 20 years building. Sindalah was only the opening move. The Red Sea project, managed by Red Sea Global, spreads across 28,000 square kilometers of Saudi coastline, 92 islands, 9 hotels already operational as of March 2026, with 50 resorts and 8,000 hotel rooms targeted by 2030. The entire development runs on renewable energy. Visitor numbers are deliberately capped to preserve the exclusivity that Dubai, with its overcrowding, its oversupply, and its summer hostility, has been structurally incapable of offering for years. Then there is Amala Triple Bay, a marina designed for 120 berths, accommodating yachts up to 130 meters, with a yacht club conceived by architecture firm HKS, opening in phases from 2025 onward. And beyond Amala, Jeddah Central, 5.7 million square meters of mixed-use waterfront, a city marina providing yacht access to a complex that will include an opera house, a museum, and a sports stadium, all delivering by 2030. Saudi Arabia has committed $30 billion to its yachting infrastructure plan alone. It is targeting 100 million annual tourism visits by the end of the decade. And in 2026, it began opening designated freehold property zones to foreign buyers for the first time. Zones that UBS explicitly named as the new frontier of competition for the exact same offshore capital that had previously flowed almost exclusively to Dubai. The strategic encirclement could not have been more deliberate, and the timing could not have been more precise. For the yacht and marina sector specifically, the arithmetic is unambiguous. The MENA superyacht fleet grew 20% in the 5 years to 2024. But that growth is now being divided between an established hub under compounding stress and a new hub backed by unlimited sovereign investment, pristine and uncrowded waters, year-round accessible temperatures, and a government that has demonstrated, clearly and publicly, that it is willing to spend whatever it takes to win. The critical threshold in a maritime economy like Dubai's is not a single dramatic number. It is a compound failure, the accumulation of smaller breaks until the whole structure shifts. The moment enough mid-tier charter operators can no longer absorb 7 months of near-zero revenue. The moment enough middle-income residents have left that the service infrastructure, the mechanics, the boat cleaners, the hospitality workers, the dock hands can no longer be filled. The moment enough high-net-worth buyers discover that the Red Sea offers what Dubai structurally cannot: genuine exclusivity, untouched coastline, and a sovereign wealth fund willing to subsidize their lifestyle indefinitely. Some analysts believe Dubai has not yet crossed that threshold. Others believe the metrics already moved past it quietly somewhere in 2025 and that nobody noticed, because the numbers at the very top of the market were still so spectacular that they concealed everything disappearing underneath. Time, in this calculation, is not neutral. Every month that Saudi Arabia's infrastructure matures is a month the global yachting calendar shifts its weight. Every super yacht that moors at Sindalah instead of Dubai Harbor is a statement of preference that others will read and follow. Every affluent family that discovers it can own a Red Sea villa with freehold title without the crowds, without the heat, without the geopolitical exposure, is one fewer buyer in Dubai's thinning off-plan pipeline. The sea does not care about slogans. It carries whoever is willing to sail. Here's what the numbers say, stripped of the architecture and the superlatives and the light shows. Between 2022 and early 2025, Dubai residential prices rose approximately 60%. In 2025 alone, the market recorded 917 billion dirhams in transactions across 270,000 deals, the strongest year in the city's history. And in that exact same year, the UAE led the world in abandoned ships, impounded over 1,300 vehicles in 6 months, watched its middle-class expatriate population quietly shrink, received elevated bubble risk warnings from UBS and Fitch simultaneously, and saw buyer inquiries collapse by 45% after a single night of regional escalation. Both things are simultaneously true. That is the real number. That is the actual Dubai. There is something older than economics at work in what happened here, and in what is still unfolding. Dubai made a wager, a very large, very public, very spectacular wager that the laws governing everywhere else could be suspended inside its borders. That you could build without limits and fill without end. That luxury, if concentrated densely enough and marketed relentlessly enough, would become self-sustaining. That a city with no oil left, no agricultural base, no indigenous industrial tradition, and a population that is 89% foreign-born could hold its shape through sheer momentum and spectacle alone. For a remarkable period, 2 decades, perhaps a little more, that wager paid out. The cranes turned, the marina filled. The boats got longer and the penthouses got higher, and the numbers kept setting records that no one had thought to prepare a framework for. But wagers are not investments. They do not compound over time. They settle. And when they settle, the assets left behind are not always the ones you thought you owned. The yachts in the marina are real. The towers are real. The cranes are still turning. But the question that the abandoned ships and the empty berths and the ghost cars in the airport parking lots keep asking quietly, insistently, in the particular language of things left behind, is not whether Dubai can survive. Cities rarely disappear. They transform, sometimes beyond recognition, sometimes into something better than what they were, sometimes into something that can only be described as a warning. The question is, what Dubai will be when it can no longer afford to be what it told the world it was? And here is the question that sits underneath all of it, the one that matters most. If a city builds its entire identity on being the most desirable place on earth for the ultra-wealthy, and then systematically makes itself unlivable for everyone else in the process, is that a success story that ran its natural course? Or was it a mistake that was always going to end this way? Leave your answer in the comments, because the answer might matter more than Dubai does.